You are being watched, not by a person, not by a camera, but by something far more intimate, something inside you. It follows you everywhere, in the silence before sleep, in the restless hum of your thoughts, in the way your chest tightens for no reason at all. You don't know when it started, only that it has always been there. Sometimes loud, sometimes a whisper, but never truly gone. It's a presence, a shadow in your own mind, stirring beneath the surface of every interaction, every plan, every quiet moment. And no matter how fast you move, no matter how many distractions you feed it, it lingers, waiting. You tell yourself it's normal. Everyone feels like this sometimes. And yet, when you sit alone in a room with nothing but your thoughts, something unsettling rises to the surface. A question. Why do I feel this way? You have no enemies hunting you, no immediate dangers lurking in the dark. And yet your body reacts as if it does. A constant, low-grade unease, a pulse of static running beneath the skin of your daily life. People tell you to relax, to breathe, to just stop overthinking, but they don't understand. This isn't something you choose. It's something that happens to you. And here's the most chilling part. Anxiety has no single source. It isn't a wound you can locate, a disease you can cut out, a switch you can flip. It is woven into the very fabric of your experience. A whisper that tells you to stay alert, a weight that keeps you on edge, a storm that never fully passes. But why? If life has never been safer, if comfort has never been more accessible, why does your mind still cling to fear? Maybe it's not just stress. Maybe it's not just overthinking. Maybe anxiety is a message, one you were never taught to understand. And if you could decode it, if you could finally face what it's been trying to tell you, what would you discover? Anxiety is an ancient language, one you were never taught to read. For centuries, we have tried to silence it. We call it irrational. We medicate it. We drown it in entertainment, work, and empty distractions. But no matter how much we suppress it, it finds a way to resurface. Because anxiety is not a malfunction. It is a signal. Think about it. Why would nature create a mind so prone to fear, doubt, and unease? If anxiety were simply a flaw, evolution would have erased it. Yet it persists, generation after generation, shaping the way we think, act, and survive. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What if anxiety is the unconscious, clawing at the edges of your awareness? A hidden force trying to tell you something you refuse to hear? In the early days of human existence, fear kept us alive. A rustling in the bushes could mean a predator. An unfamiliar face could signal a threat. Those who were cautious, those who felt before they thought, were the ones who survived. But today, the threats are different. They are no longer fangs in the dark or the snapping jaws of the unknown. They are deadlines, financial struggles, social expectations. And yet, your body reacts the same way. A missed email feels like an approaching predator. A wrong word in conversation feels like exile from the tribe. A moment of stillness feels like vulnerability. So you reach for your phone, your work, your distractions, anything to keep the mind occupied. But here's the problem. Your mind doesn't know the difference between a real threat and a perceived one. And so it reacts to everything. And when there is no immediate danger to fight or flee from, where does that energy go? It turns inward. It becomes self-doubt, restlessness, a fear of failure, a fear of being seen, a fear of being you. But this is only half the story, because something else is happening, something no one wants to admit. Anxiety thrives in comfort. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this coming over a century ago. He spoke of the last man, a future where people, in their quest for security, would trade risk for routine, passion for predictability, struggle for sedation. And in doing so, they would become anxious, not because life was too hard, but because it was too easy. Look around. The modern world has removed almost all immediate dangers, yet we are more anxious than ever. Why? Because without struggle, without purpose, without the necessity to fight for something meaningful, the mind turns against itself. It questions everything. It creates problems where there are none. It manufactures fears to fill the void left by a life stripped of real challenge. And worst of all, it convinces you that this anxiety is your fault. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that human suffering is tied to a fundamental curse. We are too aware. Unlike animals, who live moment to moment, we live in the past and the future. We replay mistakes. We anticipate failures. We construct identities and expectations, then feel trapped by them. And so, anxiety is not just fear of what is, it is fear of what could be. 1,000 imagined failures, disappointments, and judgments, all existing simultaneously in the mind, weighing you down like chains you cannot see. And here lies the hidden tragedy. Most of your suffering comes not from reality, but from the stories your mind tells you about reality. A single mistake becomes a catastrophe. A moment of silence becomes loneliness. An uncertain future becomes certain doom. But what if the real problem is not anxiety itself? What if the real problem is that you believe everything it tells you? What if anxiety is not a warning of what is to come, but a trick of the mind, one designed to keep you locked in place? And more importantly, what if you could break free? Anxiety is a thief. It steals moments, opportunities, entire lifetimes. And the worst part? Most people never realize it's happening, because anxiety doesn't just paralyze, it reshapes reality. It whispers lies so convincingly that they become the framework of your life. It turns hesitation into identity, avoidance into routine, self-doubt into an unquestioned way of being. And as the years pass, it becomes harder and harder to separate who you are from what your fear has made you. But what if you could see the damage? What if you could step outside yourself just for a moment and witness the silent destruction anxiety has left in its wake? Let's look closer. Your mind is designed to protect you. But sometimes, that protection becomes a prison. Psychologists call it the confirmation bias, the tendency to see what you expect to see, to filter reality through the lens of your deepest fears. Imagine this. You walk into a room full of people. You feel a flicker of unease, an old voice in your head whispering that you don't belong. And so, without realizing it, your eyes scan the room, searching for signs of rejection. A glance in your direction, a half-hearted smile, a moment of laughter that happens just as you pass by. There. Proof. Except was it? Did they actually judge you? Or did your mind, desperate for confirmation, twist reality to match your fears? This is how anxiety feeds itself. It makes you see threats where none exist. It turns the world into an echo chamber of your worst assumptions. And over time, it becomes self-fulfilling. You expect rejection, so you withdraw. You expect failure, so you stop trying. You expect danger, so you never step outside your comfort zone. But here's the real tragedy. Every time you avoid something out of fear, you teach your brain that the fear was justified, and so the prison grows smaller. But it's not just your mind playing tricks on you. The world you live in thrives on your anxiety. Think about it. What would happen if people were content? If they stopped chasing approval, stopped fearing judgment, stopped believing they were broken and incomplete? The economy would collapse overnight. Entire industries exist to profit off your fear. Fear of aging, fear of rejection, fear of being insignificant. Advertisements don't sell products, they sell insecurities. Social media doesn't connect you, it keeps you in a constant state of comparison. News doesn't inform you, it keeps you afraid because fear keeps you watching. And so, modern society becomes a machine of anxiety, a system designed not to free you from fear, but to keep you running from it indefinitely. But here's a thought. What if the anxiety you feel isn't personal? What if it's not a sign that something is wrong with you, but with the world you've been conditioned to accept? But perhaps the greatest consequence of all is not what anxiety makes you feel, but what it takes from you. Every anxious moment spent worrying about what others think is a moment stolen from self-expression. Every opportunity avoided out of fear of failure is a version of yourself that will never exist. Every dream abandoned in the name of playing it safe is a future you will never experience. And the worst part? Most people never realize this until it's too late. There's a reason why so many regret-filled conversations begin with, "I wish I had." But anxiety doesn't just rob you of your present. It rewrites your past. The human mind is masterful at justifying avoidance. It tells you that you didn't really want that job, that relationship, that adventure. It convinces you that staying small was the right choice, that playing it safe was wise, that your fears were valid. And so, years later, you look back, not realizing how many moments were lost, how many doors were closed before they were ever opened. Because anxiety does not just kill dreams, it makes you believe they never even existed. But what if this didn't have to be your fate? What if there was another way? What if you didn't have to live like this? What if, instead of surrendering to fear, you turned and faced it? Because that's the thing about anxiety. It thrives on avoidance. Every time you step back, it grows stronger. But what happens when you step forward? What happens when you stop obeying its commands? Rebellion. Not the kind of rebellion that burns cities or topples governments, but the quiet, radical act of refusing to live in fear. The decision to see the prison for what it is and to walk out of it, one terrifying step at a time. But how? Step 1. Stop trusting your fear. The first and most important realization: your fear is not a prophet. It doesn't see the future. It only reflects your past conditioning. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For years, you've been conditioned to believe that your anxiety is telling you the truth, that the discomfort you feel is a warning sign, that if you step outside your comfort zone, something terrible will happen. But has it? Think back to all the times you felt overwhelming fear, when you hesitated, when you panicked, when you were convinced that things would go horribly wrong. Now ask yourself, how many of those fears actually became reality? And how many were just illusions, ghosts of an old survival instinct that no longer serves you? Because here's a secret: fear lies. And once you stop believing it, it starts to lose its power. Step 2. Seek discomfort on purpose. Most people wait for their fear to go away before taking action. But that's a trap. The truth is, action comes first. Then fear fades. The Stoics knew this. That's why they practiced voluntary discomfort, deliberately exposing themselves to small fears, training their minds to handle discomfort. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, would spend days dressed in rags, living among beggars, not because he had to, but because he wanted to prove to himself that he could survive it. And once you know you can survive something, it stops controlling you. So, the rebellion begins small. Speak up in a conversation where you'd normally stay silent. Go to a social event alone, even if your hands shake. Say yes to an opportunity before your brain has time to list all the reasons why you shouldn't. Feel the fear. Let it rise. And then do it anyway. Because every time you act despite fear, you rewire your brain. You prove to yourself, again and again, that fear is not a stop sign, that you are capable of more than you think. Step 3. Stop asking for permission. One of the greatest sources of anxiety is the fear of what other people think. It shapes your choices, dulls your personality, makes you hesitate before saying or doing anything remotely authentic. It makes you shrink, edit, overthink. But here's a question. Why does their opinion matter more than your own? Nietzsche had a term for this, the herd mentality. Most people are terrified of standing out. They seek approval like oxygen, fearing rejection as if it were death itself. But in doing so, they give up the one thing that could actually set them free, their individuality. The moment you stop needing validation is the moment you become dangerous, because nothing is more terrifying to the herd than someone who thinks for themselves. So, stop waiting for permission to live. Stop looking around before you take action. Stop hesitating before you speak your mind. Stop apologizing for existing. Do what excites you. Do what challenges you. Do what makes you feel alive. Because if you let the fear of judgment control you, you'll live your entire life in a cage built by other people's expectations. And you weren't born for that. Step 4. Make peace with the worst-case scenario. What's the worst that could happen? No, really. Your brain thrives on vague, undefined fears. But when you force yourself to actually define them, something strange happens. They lose their grip. Let's say you take a risk. Speak up. Start something new. Step outside your comfort zone. What's the absolute worst thing that could realistically happen? Embarrassment, rejection, failure. You've survived those things before, and you'll survive them again. The truth is, most fears aren't life-threatening. They just feel that way. And once you recognize this, fear stops being an obstacle and becomes a challenge, one that you are fully capable of overcoming. The final act of rebellion. So, what will you choose? A life dictated by fear? Or a life shaped by courage? Because anxiety only wins if you obey it. If you live small. If you hesitate, overthink, and wait for a safety that will never come. But if you step forward, if you embrace the discomfort, if you question your fears, if you stop seeking permission, something incredible happens. The world opens up. And suddenly, you realize you were never really trapped at all. So, what was it all for? All the fear, the hesitation, the racing thoughts, what purpose did they serve? You've spent years wrestling with anxiety, avoiding discomfort, seeking reassurance, trying to outrun the weight of your own mind. And yet, no matter what you did, it always found you again, because you were never supposed to escape it. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and your anxiety is gone. No hesitation, no intrusive thoughts, no self-doubt, just silence. At first, it feels like freedom. But then, something else starts to creep in. Emptiness. Because for all its torment, anxiety gave you something. A sense of urgency, of aliveness. It forced you to think deeply, to question, to search. And now that it's gone, you realize something terrifying. You don't know who you are without it. This is the secret no one tells you. You were never meant to destroy your anxiety. You were meant to understand it, to stop seeing it as the enemy and start recognizing it for what it is, a message. Anxiety is not a curse, it's a compass. Carl Jung believed that the things we fear the most hold the key to our deepest transformation. He called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress, ignore, or run from. But here's the paradox. The more you run, the stronger the shadow becomes. The more you resist your anxiety, the more power it has over you. Because what if anxiety isn't trying to destroy you? What if it's trying to guide you? Think about it. What if your anxiety isn't a sign that something is wrong, but that something is missing? What if the discomfort isn't a punishment, but a signal? A signal that you're living out of alignment, that you're betraying your own desires, that you're ignoring a deeper truth about yourself. Maybe your anxiety about speaking up isn't a weakness. It's a sign that your voice matters. Maybe your fear of failure isn't proof that you're incapable. It's proof that you care. Maybe your restlessness, your existential dread, your constant searching, maybe they aren't problems to be fixed. Maybe they're the universe's way of telling you, wake up. Anxiety is not about what's happening outside of you. It's about what's happening inside of you. It's not just stress. It's not just worry. It's a symptom of an unlived life. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to manage their anxiety through distraction, avoidance, numbing. But the only real cure is to listen to it. What is it telling you? What have you been avoiding? What truth have you been afraid to face? Because if you sit with it, if you really listen, you'll start to realize something incredible. Your anxiety isn't holding you back. It's pointing the way forward. The final choice. So, what now? Now that you know the truth, now that you understand anxiety not as a prison, but as a message, what will you do? You have two choices. You can keep running. Keep trying to silence it, suppress it, outthink it. Or you can turn around and face it. Ask it what it wants. Follow where it leads. Step into the discomfort, not as a victim, but as a seeker, ready to uncover the life you were always meant to live. Because here's the final, most powerful realization. Your anxiety was never here to stop you. It was here to wake you up. And now, it has.